Being 7 o'clock, I'm going to call the Coos Bay City Council meeting to order. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Stephanie Kilmer is attending virtually. Everyone else is here in attendance, and thank you and welcome for everyone being here this evening. First item on the agenda this evening is public comments. So this would be an item, or time I should say, to come forth and make a comment about preferably something that's not on the agenda. So if you have a comment, please come forth and give us your name and where you reside. Hello. How are you this evening?
Hey, Ben.
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I was able to prepare something. Hopefully it's under 3 minutes. Ready?
Ready.
All right, my name is Bitten Doug and I live at 725 South 5th Street. I've written a piece to share here tonight as I'm nervous to bring this matter into public light. It is essential to do so as people, especially men, in my experience, who are in positions of power, like working in a city position or as a police officer, misuse their position of authority. And we now have a safer place in our country to name it. I need my experience to be on the record. I have so many friends who have been told me stories of how they've been disrespected by people in power. We also see people in positions of power act respectfully, kind, and considerate. Thank you. I was just helping a friend who got thrown into jail in Roseburg and his truck got impounded. I got it out of impoundment in May. In June, I needed to transport 2 rims of the truck to Roseburg and then pay for a company to mount them and then drive it back home. Best way to catch the bus. So at 7:15, I arrived in front of the city hall to unload these rims and stage them so I could get into this bus. I parked to the left side of 5th Street with plenty of room for other cars to pass. My hazards were on. I began to unload when Roger Craddock told me that I could not park there. The engine was running. I informed that I was doing what I was doing and stated too that I have an injured back. I was wearing my back brace and using a hand truck to ensure I wouldn't hurt myself in the process. I also had a weak van battery as I needed to jumpstart myself down a hill to arrive at the location before, knowing I couldn't turn it off and restart it in time, it might not start. After I told him this, he told me again that I had to move. I said that I was just unloading and I was legal. He then said something like, "I thought you knew better, Bitten." I stammered, not knowing how to respond to such a statement. I did know that this was legal. He then asked if he needed to walk up the stairs to get someone to come down to write me a citation. After hearing such a threat from our city manager.
1 minute.
Great. As a woman, I succumbed to his threat and moved my van, kept it running, unloaded it from a parking spot, and then drove around and parked on the other side while I waited for the bus for Roseburg. I was so upset. I called the Coos Bay police station, spoke to an officer on duty, recounted the situation of the practicalities of my parking and stuff. He assured me that it was legal. I was in tears. It is so upsetting to be spoken to this way and to have no regard given by others. As a tax-paying citizen, community-serving woman with a cognitive disability and chronic back injury, to be treated this way by a city employee who is supposed to be looking out for the good of our community just hurts and is shocking and unnecessary. How many other people does this happen to? I know it does because they tell me. When I recounted this story to someone who picked me up in Roseburg, he said, "I would have offered to help you because I got these rims and I'm this old lady and stuff." So anyways,
Time.
Great. So thank you. It's on the record. And thanks.
All right, thanks for your comment, and I appreciate you coming back and making those comments. Also, I'm sorry that you felt that way. We do have a comment from our city manager that relates to your incident. We have it all before us, and I'll make sure I'll read that. You also referenced the police department. I'm not sure why. You said they handled it very well. I got the indication that you felt that the police were using their authority in maybe not a proper way. That is not the case I've ever been aware of. They're very professional, so I was kind of confused in that. But all that being said, we'll just put that aside. So The city manager has addressed this to myself and the fellow councilors. At your last council meeting, Britton Dugan shared how she was helping some of our unsheltered citizens with moving their RVs given the city's revised towing ordinance. You may also recall she wanted to talk on another topic, but ran out of time. I believe she wanted to make a complaint, and I suspect it was about the fact that I directed her to move her van 6 or 7 weeks ago when she left it running in front of City Hall and parked it in the street. It was early in the morning, and there was more than 20 open parking spots, one of which was less than 10 feet away from her van. It's unlawful for her to leave a parked vehicle in the road. It would have prevented a fire truck from passing. She was not happy, to say the least. So anyway, that's what he stated. Under those circumstances, I think he was directing you properly, and I just feel sorry and feel bad that you felt threatened. Ma'am, you can't come back up. I'm sorry. That's the end of it. If you want to write a letter, and a statement, or come back in next week or in 2 weeks and state it again, you're more than welcome to. But you need to stay within the time frame, or you can ask the city manager, put it on the agenda, and we can go through the discussion of this. But anyway, so in rebutments to your comments, this is what he has issued, and I want to be part of the record as well as your comments. So we'll go from there. And I apologize that you felt that way. All right? Okay. Anyone else, councilors, want to make a comment?
I suppose the only comment that I would like to make as a woman, I have never felt that Roger has spoke down to me. Whether I was on city council or prior to being on city council, I have always known Roger to be empathetic and of the utmost professional in all circumstances. So I'm sorry that this citizen felt that way, and I appreciate your comments back, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so again, this is still time for public comments. If there's another comment by somebody else that would like to come forth, this would be the time. Any more public comments by anybody? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment section and we'll go to the consent calendar. Council?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and approved and seconded to approve the consent calendar submitted. I just have one comment. So on the consent calendar, it shows that we received a grant, Chief Anderson, for $97,139. Can you give us a brief explanation on that?
Sure. Part of our role in the city is emergency preparedness. And so we've been putting aside some materials primarily for housing people, cots, blankets, shelf-stable food for our emergency shelters around the city. We've collected enough resources to house roughly 1,600 people for 2 weeks. This grant allows us to add another 800, and one will be placed at SWAC on the college campus, and the other one will be placed at the old Miller Crest School. So that will probably round out all we need or what we anticipate we might need for emergency sheltering.
Well, thank you for getting the grant, and it's appreciated. Any other comments, anyone? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Next item on the agenda, okay, there we go. Approval of the Native American Heritage Month proclamation. Does, Roger, anyone want to speak to this before I read the proclamation?
Yes, November is designated in the United States as Native American Heritage Month, and Councilor DeNovo had requested consideration of passing a resolution recognizing that in Coos Bay.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read that now. Whereas Native American Heritage Month is celebrated every year to recognize Native American cultures, contributions, history, traditions, art, and land. And whereas the history and culture of the city of Coos Bay has been significantly influenced by Native Americans and by its surrounding Native American tribes, whose customs and traditions are represented and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout our area. And whereas the city of Coos Bay was built upon Native American lands, and our city has greatly benefited since its founding in 1853 for the Native American contributions and resources. And whereas the Native Americans enrich our heritage and continue to add to all aspects of our society through their generosity, culture, and the continued practice of the teaching economic, environmental, and cultural sustainability. And whereas the celebration of Native American Heritage Month wishes to encourage everyone to join in recognition of the accomplishments and contributions the Native Americans community has made to our society, and salute all of the local organizations who work with and in support of the Native American community. Now, therefore, I, Joe Benet, Mayor of Coos Bay, do hereby proclaim the month of November as Native American Heritage Month, and urge all citizens to join in this special observance and recognize the history, culture, contributions, and achievements of the Native Americans throughout our community. So with that being read, Council, can I get approval for the proclamation being adopted, please?
I move to approve the proclamation designated November 21 as Native American Heritage Month.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the proclamation. Before I go ahead and ask for the approval of it, does anyone want to speak to it, or do you want to do it at the end, or?
I just want to appreciate Councilor Novo for bringing this forth. I think it's really important, and I appreciate the city for recognizing it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call for the question for the approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council for passing this proclamation this evening. We are indeed fortunate to live on the ancestral homelands of two federally recognized tribes. Our community would look remarkably different without their significant contributions. The economic and cultural impact the Coquille Indian Tribe and the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians continues to play a large role in shaping our community. So I thank you for passing this proclamation. I also made a recommendation for other proclamations celebrating other cultures, so I look forward to the Roger bringing those to council for consideration in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucinda,
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you, Cinda.
Okay, next item is consideration and approval for the Marshfield High School permit application to amplify music for the outdoor dance. Roger, you want to start this off?
Yeah, I can start it out, and I'll ask School
Officer
Resource
Schofield?
Officer Schofield to come up, but Marshfield High School student body is requesting the council consider granting them a permit to hold an outside dance under the covered courtyard at the junior high.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Robert Scholl, I'm your school resource officer. Marshfield had a homecoming dance on the 2nd of October at this location. It was held from 8 till 10, falling within the parameters of the codes, did not need a permit. This dance will be held after the last game of the regular season, which would be the 29th. And because this game will probably go till 9 o'clock, they're asking for a permission to have a dance till 11. The dance will be held behind the junior high under a covered area. It's outdoors. The kids wear masks. Security and parents provide everything needed for these kids. It's a great, safe environment and a good opportunity for the kids to have a chance to interact. So I'm just asking for a permit for this evening of the 29th. It'd be from 9 to 11.
So if I understand correctly, last year there wasn't a permit needed because of the time frame, and this time it could be a little bit later, and you're just asking for they're asking for the permit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions for Officer Schofield?
It's
But-
also my understanding that a condition of the permit would be that we're informing neighbors.
Yes, the student government of Marshfield goes door to door, handing out pamphlets. On the pamphlet also has the phone number for the principal who will be on duty. If there's any problems, they can call him directly, and either myself or the principal will respond.
Great.
Awesome.
Well,
Wonderful.
looks like you've covered everything.
Yeah.
How
Sounds
can we
great.
say no to a school dance?
Yeah,
I would say no.
I'm proud of them making that work and following the rules and applying for the permit. I think it's a good lesson in how to make things happen, so.
No, I think it's great. They've taken the steps that are necessary to continue on with some kind of
Exactly.
normalcy under the circumstances. So, council, with that being said, you would like to make a motion to grant this permit?
I'll make a motion to grant a permit to Marshfield High School to amplify music for an outdoor dance from 9 to 11 p.m., October 29th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve, to grant a permit to Marshfield High School to amplify music for an outdoor dance from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., October 29th, 2021. Any other comments, anyone? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was a affirmative, right, Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was a little quick. I apologize. So anyway, it's unanimous. We're all in favor. Thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, presentation of service recognition plaque to Officer Looney and K9 Katie. Chief Chapinar, I believe that you're going to be doing the honors this evening.
Yeah, good evening. I'm actually going to pass this honor to Captain Tom Lindahl. He's going to introduce Senior Officer Brian Looney and present the plaque.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, councilors, thank you for having us tonight to recognize Officer Brian Looney and K9 Katie for their dedication to the city. So together since 2015, Senior Officer Looney and K9 Katie served as certified drug detection dog team and helped to remove many harmful drugs from Coos Bay and all over Coos County. K9 Katie, a Springer Spaniel, is a certified drug detection canine trained to locate methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. Senior Officer Looney and K9 Katie had approximately 950 hours of training and they deployed 193 times. K9 Katie alerted in the field 120 times, of which 113 were corroborated. Senior Officer Looney and K9 Katie passed the Oregon Police Canine Association certification test each year from 2015 through 2020 since she arrived at the Coos Bay Police Department. We'd like to thank Senior Officer Looney and K9 Katie for the years of dedicated service to our community.
Where's K9 Katie?
So K9 Katie has been transferred over to state parole and probation. She's currently with Mackenzie Davis, and I think they just recently, as of last week, passed their certifications through the state again. It's kind of been a logistical transition due to ballot measure 110, and the need for K9 Katie in our capacity isn't as great as it was for state parole and probation. They still have quite the need for drug detection canine, so that's kind of what prompted the transition.
Well, thank you so much. And Officer Looney, thank you for your all your hard work and dedication, well-deserved and well-recognized at you and K9 Katie. So thank you again for all the service you do.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, number 7 now is going to be public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the Coos Bay Municipal Code, Section 17, related to indoor marijuana-related business regulations. So we had one public hearing. This is going to be the second public hearing. But before I open the second public hearing on this item, Carolyn will go ahead and give us a brief, I guess, a synopsis or of what's happening, because not everyone might have been here or heard the last one. So if you could just tell us what's going on, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly. Good evening, councilors. In November of 2020, the council imposed a moratorium on business licenses for marijuana businesses, and the council requested the Planning Commission to take a look at the regulations in place. The Planning Commission has done that and is recommending a revision to the regulations to eliminate the distance requirements between marijuana businesses and marijuana businesses and residential uses and zones. The council is asked to take a look at that recommendation, and if that, after your public hearing, if that works for you, it would be option 1 under the action requested. There are a number of other options as well that you could consider that are in front of you. The second issue that has arisen is about where marijuana businesses are permitted. Currently, with these revisions, marijuana businesses for retail would be allowed in commercial zones and industrial commercial zones. Marijuana growing and processing would not be allowed in commercial districts. However, they would be allowed in industrial commercial zones. The question then has arisen, well, what about some of these other zones? And in front of you this evening is a refinement of Exhibit 2 that was in your staff report, identifying some of the other zones in the city. In the Waterfront Heritage District, the Urban Public, and the Medical Park District, marijuana businesses of any kind are not mentioned at all, and typically in a zoning code, that means that they're not permitted. However, each of those districts has a section that says that if the director would deem it compatible with the district and adjacent land uses, there are other uses that are not listed that could take place in those areas. The Hollering Place is another location where there's a reference to limited manufacturing that's allowed in the industrial commercial zone. Well, if that is as it reads, marijuana businesses are permitted in industrial commercial zones. So under the language as it is today, with a conditional use permit in the lower bench area, the city could consider a marijuana business in these locations. The question then arises, if there's interest to modify any of these, how could that happen? And we would essentially need to go through the same kind of process we did with these amendments and notify DLCD, take it through the Planning Commission, and then bring it back to the council for public hearings and action. So that is my presentation. And if the council does go with option 1 to take action on the ordinance, I don't have it here in this report, but when the ordinance would go into effect, you may want to comment on whether or not at that point you would lift the moratorium. So that's all I have, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, council, if you don't mind, we'll just get back to any comments you have for Carolyn after we open the public hearing. Okay? So at this time, I'll open a public hearing. The public hearing is regarding proposed amendments to the Coos Bay Municipal Code, Section 17, related to indoor marijuana-related business regulations. Is there anyone who would like to come forth and make a comment about this item? Okay, hearing none. So I see that I have 3 letters in front of me from public comments. Does all the council have it? And do these need to be read into the record?
No, they'll become part of the record.
Okay. So we have one that is wanting to know why we eliminate the buffer. Another one, Public Health Association presenter spoke, research on this. It'll go on the record for legislation marijuana and some concern. And then one thinks that they should have all the taxes paid before they're given a permit, and some other reasons for that. With that being said, I'll close the public hearing on this item, and then we'll open it up for council discussion and how they want to go forth. The only thing, to start with, Carolyn, if we were to go ahead, as you stated, and want to change the Waterfront Heritage District in the Hollering Place, and we go ahead and enact everything else in this ordinance, does those areas still become available for putting a location of a marijuana indoor facility there during this process? What happens?
Only if it depends on the district. In the Waterfront Heritage, the Urban Public, and the Medical Park District, the director has the discretion to authorize marijuana uses if they deem it appropriate and compatible with the area. I think given the direction this may be going, I don't know that the director would be interested in entertaining an application to consider a deviation. And we don't, in fact, have anyone asking for that in these areas at this time. That doesn't mean they couldn't, but so very technically it would be possible, but the director would have to make some very strong findings to say it's compatible. In the Hollering Place area, that's a little different because it does specifically reference you to limited manufacturing in the industrial commercial district. And in the industrial commercial district, you can have the two types of marijuana businesses, not only retail sales, but manufacturing and packaging. So I think that you would, well, I don't think I know after talking to DLCD that you could take action on this ordinance tonight, but the changes to these specific districts would have to fall under a separate amendment in notification and public hearing.
And so how long would the process take if these districts were wanting to be changed, these areas? How long would the process take?
Well, I think the process could probably take about 60 to 90 days. Once we got started, we'd have to find out where this would be in the priority of work, but because I would need to take this to the Planning Commission because the ordinance requires them to advise you on code amendments and hold public hearings. So
Roger.
I'd say 60 to 90 days.
Yeah, well, a couple things. One, I don't think you're in any danger of having one put at the hollering place because you would have to get the owner's approval, and currently the city is the owner of that property. Secondly, should you wish to do some change, you could simply put a moratorium in place of citing that type of business in those zones that you want to have reconsidered.
Okay.
And that would give time. There's another couple big projects that's before the Planning Commission currently, and that would give them time to finish off those issues and then move forward.
Okay. So I'll start off and then everyone can just jump in however they wish. You know, this has been going on for a while, and, and I'm not real supportive of opening this up to a lot of marijuana facilities. I think we have a fair amount in our city, and I think there's still some areas available. So I am more inclined to go with option 2, enact the ordinance with changes, amending the Coos Bay Municipal Code. And, you know, going through this, I mean, a lot of this I have been thinking about today, and you know, I was going through the World newspaper, and the paper states that the City Council took step toward making it easier to open marijuana dispensaries. I'm not sure that is what I intended us to be doing. In fact, I was really more leaning the other way to be a little bit more restrictive, and I think that's the road that I intended us to start down, and I found us circling back to where we're at, and then getting the indication from the Planning Commission. So for me, this is not something that I believe we should do. I still think that, in my opinion, first of all, Rob mentioned that OLCC has a map that regulates a lot of the marijuana where it can be, so it can't be close to schools. I know one of the letters references that, but it really takes care of marijuana facilities being located close to a school, so which is very good as far as I'm concerned. We don't want these too close, and so I'm glad OLCC stepped up in that. Pardon? Oh, and I also, in my opinion, think that we should keep the 1,000-foot distance from marijuana-related business that are the same. And you know, we're taking out the residential use in the zone of the city, but that's, as I indicated, been taken care of well OLCC, so I don't see a problem with that being taken out. I think there needs to be a diversity of businesses in a community, and I don't think there needs to be a lot of any one type. That makes a downtown and the city thrive as far as I'm concerned. That's what the attraction is for the citizens and also in tourists. So my opinion is that we should keep the 1,000-foot that is stated in here of any new residential, or not residential, excuse me, marijuana facility to another one. And I would like to see us take number 2 and do that, change this ordinance that's before us.
Mr. Mayor, you said it quite eloquently, and I agree that we also need to keep that 1,000-foot buffer. So thank you for bringing that to the council. I couldn't agree more.
And the only other thing, in the Waterfront Heritage District, I guess we can still enact this. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't see that the director would have the option to do that. Hopefully, before this goes back to the Planning Commission, Carolyn, whoever the director is, which is Carolyn, I believe, or Jim, would not do that. I think it should be not permitted. In the hollering place, I also believe it should be not permitted, not with some exceptions or options. And Roger's correct, we do own the property, so it'd be very difficult for that to happen. But at some point, I think the city wants to have this be developed in some fashion, and I would hate to see that be the case. So I'd like to see those two places also put not permitted instead of with options that are available to them. Stephanie, you're up on any comments? Any counselors? You're awful quiet.
I'm trying to remember.
I do have
Oh,
a
go
couple
ahead.
of comments.
Yes.
I kind of agree with you, Joe, with regards to areas of where it's permitted. I think if the intention is, I mean, if we don't put it in the code or where it's permitted, then it's left to someone's discretion. I think it needs to be in there. If you intend it not to be in Hollering Place, you know, that it's a tough thing for me because we are, you know, locking something in, and I do kind of try to err on the side that the market will regulate those kind of things. It's not necessarily something that we have to, but at the same time, if the intention is to, you know, set that in certain areas so that we don't have so much concentration, then it should be in this document. And those were the two things I was going to say.
I had one with regards to one of these letters. It references growers that transport across state lines to illegal states. I feel like there's already some pretty strong legal restrictions against that would go beyond anything we can do. So that not so much an issue. The distance between retail stores, I was trying to remember, and I don't recall, do we have something similar for alcohol stores? That's my usual comparable.
We don't. That's regulated by the state.
Okay, so is the state imposing any regulations on proximity of marijuana stores right now?
They do.
Okay.
They do. It's a state law on proximity to schools. Currently, at one time, there was a 1,000-foot buffer on proximity to medical marijuana dispensaries.
But not to each other?
To each other.
Okay.
But that kind of went away when they had recreational retail stores.
I'd be inclined to go with OLCC's standard. I don't see a lot of function to restricting the distance between the stores. Yeah, to me, if people want to open multiple businesses of a similar type, yeah, the market will feed itself out. If they want to be located close to each other, we're just reducing the dispersion throughout the community. So to me, it would be less of an issue if we didn't have them all over town. If they want to co-locate, that seems like a good solution to me.
So for the liquor store in OLCC, they regulate how many liquor stores can be in the city.
Oh.
They do it on population. Fortunately, I wish they did the same thing for the marijuana, but they're not.
Oh.
So I'm not sure why they're taking issue with liquor and not with the other. In
And
fact,
just to be clear, if I understand it, there are two in this community, in both of our communities, correct, Roger?
liquor stores?
Liquor stores?
Right.
There's
No.
one in Coos Bay and one in North Bend.
And Charleston.
In Charleston.
Yeah, and like I was saying, alcohol standards are kind of my approximation, so whatever they're doing for alcohol at the state, I'd be comfortable doing for pot stores.
And, you know, I mean, this criteria was, as Roger mentioned, because that's what was initially out there, and we adopted it, right?
Originally, we adopted just the state standard. We didn't add any other restrictions. When we added regulations allowing indoor marijuana grows, processing, there was a distance added to those, but it got applied against the entire code. And so we didn't originally have it on dispensaries, but it was added.
Right. And I have no problem with that being staying, is what I guess I'm saying. I don't think that we need to change that piece that the planning commission suggested. But anyway, there's a different, I think Drew has a difference of opinion and Stephanie, so.
I just, again, I thought you said it eloquently, but I do appreciate your comment about the diversity of businesses in our different areas in the community. And Drew, I know that you were open to 3 pot stores, you know, back to back to back. That's not ideal for me. I think I would like more of a variety, especially for the tourists that come here and our community members. So I appreciate the mayor's point about a diversity of businesses in our downtown corridors.
In a way, the
Are we seeing other communities facing problems by having that? I mean, some tourists may appreciate that they're next door to each other. I don't know, but I mean, is it something that other communities are dealing with, saying that it's problematic?
I think it's by choice. Now, Roger can step in or someone else, but there's some communities, Stephanie, they don't even allow it. And there's some that regulate it, maybe like we do. I don't know if there's a specific way any community regulates this. I think it's probably pretty diverse how they do it, and which each community or their counselors at the time feel the community wants. So,
Roger, were you going to say something?
No, that's correct.
I'll add that I'm also by no means a marketing or tourism professional, so I'm easily swayed on this one.
I feel that the 1,000-foot radius helps to regulate the number of businesses. And I think that lends itself to a more diverse business mix-up in our downtown and retail areas. So I would be more in favor of continuing the diversity of business opportunities in our downtown corridor and commercial zones.
Rob, Sarah?
So I agree that I think it should be restricted from the Waterfront Heritage District and the Hollering Place. I don't really have a strong opinion on the 1,000 feet from another marijuana store, but I understand the reasoning that you guys have brought up, so I would support that.
Yeah, I noticed a store go into a location in a city that's close to us that I didn't love. It's right across from the library. And that, you know, and it's the first thing you see when you drive into town, and I don't love that. And so I do think it's important to limit the number and the location. However, I'm just a little stuck on us regulating this business in a way that we don't regulate others.
I don't disagree with you, but I think going to the number of liquor stores that we have, the fact that OLCC regulates that, to me, liquor is very similar to marijuana. And so I feel like there's already a precedent for that. And to Carmen's points, and I think all the points made here, having that diversity, and to your point of, do we really want a whole bunch of pot stores as, you know, people are coming into this community? I don't think that's what we want, and I don't think we want a whole bunch of liquor stores either. So I think this is a good step for us at this time.
I would agree. And in terms of regulating a specific type of business, and just sharing a personal experience, when I opened up a liquor retail facility, I had to notify the surrounding businesses in an X amount of square foot radius. And I don't believe you have to do that for, say, a blanket store. Am I correct? You don't have to, like,
Correct.
announce to your neighbors that you're going to open a blanket store, but you would if you're selling alcohol. So I feel like we are regulating controlled substance, or, you know, or I guess this would be a controlled substance. Is that, you know, we regulate other businesses like this, and I feel like it falls in suit and it would be fine.
So if, okay, so,
Do,
go ahead.
Mr.
Stephanie.
Mayor, I may have missed that in here, but is there a process that a marijuana dispensary has to go through with the police department vetting like the liquor store does?
So I can answer part of that. They have to go through planning and get what's called a LUX, or a land use compatibility statement. And then they provide that to OLCC, and OLCC does most of the regulations. Basically, the land use compatibility is basically a statement that says this is an allowable use in this zone at the location that they're choosing.
It has to be allowed by the city that they're applying at. So
That is
basically,
correct.
they're just confirming that that's allowed because the city allowed it in that zone.
That's correct.
I believe the applicant also has to have a criminal background check, don't they?
Yes, that all goes through OLCC.
So there's already a second regulating agency that's
There is.
dealing with this.
If I could suggest, I think you want to take this in two different steps. One, you want to determine if you want to accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission, or if you'd like to accept them in part and amend them, such as, I'd like to accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission with the exception of keeping 1,000-foot buffer in between like businesses. That's one issue, and then once you're done with that, then you can come back and say, I'd like to direct staff to consider changes of not permitting these businesses in these zones, and until then, we'd like to have a moratorium. I
So-
think that there's going to be two different issues.
Right. So but really, what's pending right now, what's sitting on the books, right, besides the moratorium, is that there's 1,000-foot distance between the businesses.
That
as
is
it
currently in the.
So we would have to change the ordinance to allow the 1,000-foot to go away, right?
Correct.
So I don't think we should.
So really, we are just talking about where these are allowed and where they are not allowed, and that could be handled right now.
Well, if we leave the ordinance the way it is, Stephanie, and we don't take any action on it, then basically it's 1,000-foot between each marijuana facility. So they could not locate. The other thing that's in the ordinance now, it says nor within 1,000 feet of any residential use in any zone of the city. I guess we could leave it in there, but I don't know if it's necessary under the circumstances, but that's still in there as it is. So if we didn't do anything, if I'm correct, Roger and Carolyn, then everything stays the same as it is. Am I right?
That's correct. I would suggest that if your interest is just limiting the distance between businesses, you could do that with an amendment to the verbiage in the draft ordinance. I would leave it to Nicole or Roger to decide if you had to bring it back or not. But under number 1 in the ordinance itself, it talks about the business must be located in a permanent building, et cetera, et cetera. It ends with the word greenhouse. You could add the words nor within 1,000 feet of another like marijuana business, period. And it seems like that would address kind of where I'm hearing the consensus of the council right now. The other piece is that you could consider lifting the moratorium for everywhere except the 3 areas that you mentioned of concern, like Roger had referenced. So those would be 2 separate actions.
So if we enact this ordinance, when does it come into effect? Immediately?
30 days.
If you can enact it this evening with that minor change to the draft language, it would go into effect in 30 days on October 19th. Oh, I'm sorry, on November 19th. November 19th.
But if we lifted the moratorium right now, then basically there's 1,000-foot from one store to another. Am I right? Because we're not changing it.
You're correct. I would just lift the moratorium at the time of enactment, with the exception of those 3 areas as suggested by Carolyn.
In one motion.
Well, if you lift the moratorium, then this all stays in place, except we need to re-regulate these if we wish. The waterfront heritage district, the Harding Place. And what about this urban public now?
Yeah, I think that one we'll probably need to look at, but I would suggest you go ahead and enact what the Planning Commission has provided, because they are providing you increased definitions that helps in managing this. And this, I think Carolyn did a great job of adding that to the end, that verbiage about not within 1,000 feet of another. And you can enact that. You can come back and say you'd like to have the moratorium lifted upon enactment, with the exception of those other areas, and let the Planning Commission provide some recommendations to you on that.
Could I make a comment on that?
Yes, please.
I'm a little nervous about lifting the moratorium upon enactment, because the enactment would be tonight, which means you'd be lifting a moratorium, and these regulations, as they are on the books today, would still be in place. So it might be an option to consider to lift the moratorium when it goes into effect in 30 days.
Excellent.
I think we should do it in 2 motions.
Okay. So Caroline, just for clarification, if the council wants to leave the 1,000 feet in there, what you're saying, on number 1 location, after code as residence, then we should go over to make sure it stays nor within 1,000 feet of another marijuana-related business of the same type. Is that correct?
Yeah, you would just take out that nor within 1,000 feet of any residential use or zone of the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I would, if I could ask a question of Nicole, is it satisfactory to simply make that change and not have to bring this back for action, Nicole?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what are you suggesting here?
So I'm suggesting that, and I can make the motion, I guess, if I
Well,
want.
hold on, I want to know what you're suggesting
So-
before you make the motion.
This needs to come out because we're going to adopt, I would say number 2, enact the ordinance with changes, amending the Coos Bay Municipal Ordinance indoor marijuana related. And the nor within 1,000 feet of any residential use in any zone needs to go away, as the Planning Commission suggested. I'm suggesting then also that we leave nor within 1,000 feet of another marijuana-related business of the same type stay in. Right now, it's crossed out.
So, Mr. Mayor, again, it's option 2, but we would also recommend that we add the language back in
Or just leave.
of nor within 1,000 feet of any residential use or any city zone in the city.
No, not that part, just the last line.
No, yeah, that last one, just it says nor within 1,000 feet of another marijuana, the last part. Just struck
Okay.
out, not the first part.
Okay.
The
And
ending,
if I could ask for verification on the definitions as well, that would be helpful.
It also has to be changed in the definition, you said?
No.
We'd be adding definitions as noted in the ordinance. So that's the first piece of the ordinance, is adding these definitions.
I think you have that covered if you accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission, with the exception.
So what I'm hearing is we should, if we all agree, should enact this ordinance with the 1 sentence added back in. Correct.
That's how I feel.
Rob, will you make the motion?
so just for real quick clarification, at the end of it, it says a marijuana-related business of the same type. Are we doing that? Because there are different types of marijuana businesses, but that's okay, right? We're just,
I think it is, because basically it's only retail that's allowed in the commercial district.
Gotcha.
Or the mixed use. The grows or manufacturing or producing is only allowed in the industrial commercial.
so, perfect, that makes sense. Thank you.
And are there any existing stores we have to grandfather in for this to work?
Well, they're in, right?
Right, they're all grandfathered in.
Okay.
And none of them would be adversely
Okay.
affected.
Is there a number for this ordinance, or did I just say ordinance?
It's generally given a number once it's been enacted.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to enact the ordinance with changes, including amending number 1 location including the sentence within 1,000 feet of another marijuana-related business of the same type.
Second.
Okay, that's sufficient, everybody? All right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so Melissa, will you do the roll call, please, on this?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 473 definitions, Coos Bay Municipal Code 17.020, as previously amended by ordinances 473, 486, 490, 503, 513, 518, 532, and 540, and ordinance 513, indoor marijuana-related businesses, Coos Bay Municipal Code 17.335.080. Counselor DeNovo?
Aye.
Counselor Farmer?
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer?
Aye.
Counselor Matthews?
Aye.
Counselor Miles?
Aye.
Counselor Stevens?
Aye.
Mayor Benetti?
Aye.
Ordinance number 547 has been duly enacted.
So how do we handle, thank you, Melissa. How do we handle the permitted zones now?
So I would suggest that a motion possibly could be that you lift the moratorium once the, correct me again, Carolyn, it's not when it's enacted, it's when it becomes
Effective.
When it goes into effect on November 19th, right?
So you lift the current moratorium once it becomes, the current amended ordinance becomes effective within, except within the urban public, the waterfront heritage district, and the hollering place.
And the medical park would be the other that's not referenced.
No, the medical part too?
And I think you could as easily do it by saying so moved.
You could. Someone wanted to say so moved, if they agree with Roger's statement, you could.
I want to make it painful. Let's see if I can do it. I would like to make a motion to lift the moratorium once the ordinance
Becomes effective.
becomes effective, except in the 4 districts, the urban public district, the waterfront heritage district, the hollering place district, and the medical park.
Second.
Okay, so, and then this will, if this is enacted, then Carolyn, this goes back to the planning commission, or this goes where?
Well, it only goes back to the planning commission if you direct them to begin amendments to the.
And I believe you actually have consensus to do that, and I think that can happen.
So it doesn't need to go back then, or it does?
It will go back to that.
Okay. All right, it's been moved.
Actually,
It's been moved and
Okay.
seconded. Oh, Carolyn, go ahead. Did you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you
I
off.
need some, if I could get some clarity. So the council is providing some direction then that you want to go ahead with these amendments to those four districts. Is that correct?
I think not permitted is what we're leaning towards. I mean, I don't quite understand the urban public in the medical park, but, you know, I think
Okay.
that's where we're leaning. That's where I feel. This should say not permitted, I guess.
If that's the council's direction, then we would take it back to the planning commission and begin the process and notify DLCD and do what we need to do.
I guess so, yes. Everyone agree? Go back to land commission? Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second about the permitted zones for marijuana, indoor marijuana usage. I'm going to call for the question. Oh, do we need to do this by, okay, I'll just call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none,
Aye.
passes. You were in favor of it, Stephanie?
She said aye.
Aye, okay, I
Yes.
apologize. I'm sorry, I'm a little quick there sometimes. All right, thank you, everyone, appreciate it. Staff, council, and now we're on to consideration of award for the Inglewood School. And Jim, are you handling this
I'll
one?
take this one. The Inglewood School Demolition and Brownfield Remediation Project is a sponsorship option project. which means it's an option under the Department of Environmental Quality State Revolving Fund Program, in which non-point source loan can be awarded, and it reduces the interest rate for a point source loan. Essentially, the city is able to do a non-point source project for the same amount as the original loan amount of the point source project. So in other words, we're doing Plant 1, Phase 1 project using a point source loan, and for essentially no money, we can do this cleanup and remediation of the Inglewood School. All the environmental processing has been completed and approved. The plans have been prepared for the school building demolition and site remediation, and an intergovernmental agreement with the county to remediate the site and grade the site to drain and stabilize the site with vegetation. Once the site cleanup is complete, the county intends to transfer ownership to the Oregon Coast Community Action to design and construct low-income housing. Bids for the remediation were opened earlier this month. 2 responsive bids were received, one from Johnson Rock Products for a bid of $876,978, and one from Three Kings Environmental Incorporated out of Vancouver, Washington, for $691,152. The engineer of record has reviewed the bids, verified the experience of both contractors, and is recommending award to Three Kings Environmental Incorporated. The staff agrees and is recommending a 15% contingency. So if it pleases the council, award the contract to Three Kings Environmental Incorporated for a total of $794,825, which includes the 15% contingency. Thank you.
So to get this contingency, they have to prove that this was something that was necessary. Am I correct? The engineers would
Right.
approve it or what?
No, well, we may include our engineer in the discussion, but the way it's supposed to work is when they want to go beyond what the contract price is, they need to come to us with a change order. We evaluate
Okay.
the rationale for the change order.
So the other thing is, this is more than we were hoping for, am I correct?
Yes.
We were thinking, I remember a discussion, and I'm sure maybe it's before the engineer came out with a bid or a suggested amount. Was it around 500,000?
That's correct.
So we're taking this from somewhere, right? The difference. So how's that going to affect other projects?
Well, you want to think?
So essentially, we're going to increase the loan, which DEQ has already approved that we could do that. And so it's going to have kind of a long-term effect on projects because the repayment of that loan.
Okay.
So over time, we may touch some, but it would be minimal each year with that debt service repayment.
And also, for clarification, the transfer of the title from the county to Orca, there's also, on the title itself, I guess, Nate would be correct, that to get title to the property, they have to meet certain expectations, one being that it has to be built, right?
That's correct. There'll be a deed restriction on the deed itself, which restricts how the property can be used. There's also something within the agreement between the county and, the agreement that we already have, that if it's not built within a certain time, the land transfers back to the county, still has the deed restriction, and then they'll look for another opportunity for the low-income housing.
Okay. All right.
If we approve this tonight, when would work on this project begin, Jim?
Okay, that's a good question. It'll be 4 to 6 weeks just to get the contract completed. And then they have 120 days to get to substantial completion, and then another 30 days to get everything buttoned up. So it could be as much as 6 months.
So is this something you can do in the winter then?
Yes.
Or it is something, okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
And Nicole, just to clarify Joe's question, this is a sponsorship option, so if we didn't spend this money, we would just be paying off interest on the previous loan, correct? Sort of?
Yes, essentially what happens is they find the interest rate that helps basically make this loan zero effect, So there may be some variation in that interest rate if we weren't going to do, this project. And we
I think it's a good project. I just was hoping it'd come in less, because then we could use the other monies for another brownfield cleanup project. But, this is important to do, so.
But
And
to
we would
Nicole's
still have
point,
to go
it'll be
back to DEQ if we were gonna change the project. This is an approved project for them.
Quite a
so.
while, okay.
But to Nicole's point, any future projects would be minimally impacted.
Yeah,
Right.
the loan period is generally 20 years. That's what they've approved, so we'd see that kind of incremental over those periods.
Yeah, I won't be sitting here, maybe Drew and Carmen.
Well, I'm really
Mr.
excited.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes,
It's with regards to the contingencies and the pretty significant price difference between the two bidders. When our staff looked at those bids or Dyer Partnership, were these comparisons pretty identical? I mean, like bid for bid? I'm just concerned because we're approving something that's also close to the second bid. And if they're not comparable, then we're in a situation where we're almost paying a company that is not local to do the work that a local company could do if they are compared. Does that make sense? I mean, the contingencies, I understand, those are built in. And if we accepted the Johnson Rock bid, then we would put a contingency in there. But are we comparing apples to apples as far as the work is going to be done? I just want that assurance.
Yes.
but Stephanie, the bid difference is still 176,000 without the contingency.
No, but I think Stephanie's question is she wanted the assurance
Yeah, I agree.
that,
Right.
and Jim answered, I think, that
Yes,
question.
because they both bid on the same package.
Correct.
And so the same expectations are
And
on each
And just for
contract.
clarification, when we bid this last time, didn't we kick one of the bids out because they didn't meet something?
That's correct.
Okay. Anyway, did you get your questions answered, Stephanie?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll move to award the contract to Three Kings Environmental for a total of $794,825, which includes a 15% contingency.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract, or award the contract to Three Kings Environmental for the Inglewood project. Are there any more comments or discussions? Carmen?
Was Johnson Rock's bid amount, this has already been bid on before, right?
They bid on it before, and I believe this bid is lower than the bid prior.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, we rejected all the bids because we felt they were too high, and we were looking to try to find a lower bidder. And so then the two bids came back. Johnson Rock rebid and came back in, and then Three Kings.
All right, I'm just,
And who was the other one that was in the running? They didn't bid again.
They did not bid.
Who was it?
I don't remember the name. They were also out of town.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
yeah, I'm just, well, kind of. It sounds like Johnson Rock changed their bid amount.
They did.
I'm just hoping that, since that was part of public record, other bidders could potentially see that amount and then adjust their bid accordingly.
I
which
think that's,
was something
yeah.
that Courtney was worried
yeah,
about.
I think that's the case. I think that is the case. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. And Courtney did bring that up as a issue. Am I right?
Correct.
It's a tough one. I mean,
It is. I mean, I don't know how you go about it, because the bids were more than we were willing to, at this, well, we rejected them as a
Yeah.
council. We didn't have to, I guess. We
Miss-
could have accepted one of them.
One more question. Do we know why the bids were so much higher than what we anticipated? Is the cost of remediation and disposal different? Is it just that the price is higher because there's a lot of work being done around and there's a lot fewer to choose from? Do we know?
I don't know if we know exactly, but I believe that it is the climate, and all these contractors are very busy, and I think that's what we're seeing.
I think this is being experienced by cities around the state, and I think I heard the term that bids are coming in at least 18% higher than engineers' estimates.
Okay.
Just a comment, then I would hope that the engineers would make the adjustment based on the climate so that we're not seeing numbers that are so far unanticipated.
Was, for clarification, was Johnson Rock the low bidder on the last go-around?
No.
No,
So they weren't the low bidder either?
but
I mean-
with a low responsive bidder. The other bidder had left out some paperwork, so that's,
So they were or they were not?
the other bid came in less than Johnson Rock.
Okay.
But they had left out paperwork, so it was invalid.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, okay,
They were the only eligible bid.
correct. There was one other one, though. I think there was three. One was left out paperwork, right?
No, there was only two before.
Oh, there's only two? Okay,
I think there was one that was trying to make it, but it didn't work or something like that.
okay, that's what it was, right. Oh, yeah, their fax machine or something was that?
Yeah, they were late or something like that.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more comments, anyone? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, council comments.
City
Stephanie?
manager. City
Oh,
manager's
Roger,
report.
I'm just skipping you tonight.
Mine's
sorry.
going to be fairly quick. One, we've been talking about Mingus Park over the last few meetings, and the council's aware that we had plans put together, and we had hoped more than 2 years ago that we would be able to submit for some grant dollars to dredge Mingus Park Pond and do some substantial improvements to the surrounding park. That got delayed because of COVID. And we've learned very recently that that'll probably still be stalled, and as the agency is looking at changing some of its desires. So the soonest we'll be able to apply is 2023. In the meantime, we have a problem with some invasive weeds in the pond itself that's taking over the pond. Staff is getting ready to treat the water to deal with that, but in order to make that effective, we have to have some aeration into the water. Now, I never knew it was called aeration. I just thought those were water features.
Right.
So we had hoped to replace those when we did the dredging, but that can't wait. So staff has ordered, and I believe we have the pumps in. So we'll be reactivating those so that we can take care of that invasive species. I did ask if that's going to affect the ducks or the fish in there, and I was advised it would not.
Good.
Secondly, just announced 9 minutes ago, as you know, the city of Coos Bay has been assisting the city of North Bend, and I should probably say this correctly, Chief Chapinar and Captain Schaefer has been assisting the North Bend Police Department and providing administrative services to their department as they were without administrators. The North Bend City Administrator just announced a few minutes ago that he has hired 2 replacement interim administrators to assist them until he can go through a process to replace those 2 persons. The new interim chief is Gary McCullough. You might remember him. And the interim captain is Cal Metz, who also recently retired from the city of Coos Bay. But Chief, I know you've been pulling double duty, and you've done a lot of work. You've been going to 2 different council meetings and going to 2 different department head meetings and working closely with both staffs. And that it didn't go without notice, and I appreciate your help. And I know in my discussions this evening with North Bend City Administrator, he is very thankful for your work and the work of your staff.
Thank you. It makes it a lot easier when we have the people we have here working, our staff. It makes it a lot easier for me to be able to kind of step away at times when needed, so, thank you.
That's great.
That's all I have.
So Chief, are you gonna be able to work with the interim chief over there?
I'm actually gonna meet him over there tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and introduce him to his new staff.
All right.
After the arm wrestling competition.
Roger, thank you. Sorry for my oversight on your report. Council comments, Stephanie?
Just a couple, reminder that we're in the final rows of the Coos Bay Farmers Market. We have a couple more opportunities before the Coos Bay Downtown Association's event is over for the season. And so be sure to take a moment and visit downtown and take a look at some of the other businesses that we have operating year-round. Also, the Coos Bay Downtown Association is preparing for the holidays and Shop Small Saturday, the holiday open houses, and of course, the official tree lighting, which will all take place in the Visitor Center parking lot this year. And I had something else, but it completely slipped my mind, and it was important. Oh, yes, was able to attend a joint meeting with our staff and the staff and mayor at North Bend. And I will tell you that they are planning a throwdown like you can't believe for the bus jam. So if it's now that we need to get together and see what we can do to make sure that Coos Bay brings home that trophy for the Toy and Food Drive, which will be December 4th.
So if I understand correctly, Stephanie, you're helping North Bend with the bus jam, right?
Yes, for the purpose of transparency, I am the lead on the bus in North Bend.
Great, thanks. Thank you.
But I'm also a media person, so I'm very capable of playing both sides. I mean, working with both sides.
I get it. Thank you. I think Phil helped us the last couple times, didn't he? We're going to have to maybe wrangle Phil up again. Sarah?
Yeah, a couple of things tonight. I wanted to share that it's the Coos History Museum's 130th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah. Lots of events happening there starting October 30th through November 5th. It is also the United Way of Southwestern Oregon's 60th anniversary, and lots of celebrations happening there as well around the things that United Way does in our community. And then the last thing I wanted to share is that on October 29th from 8 to 11, there is a Southern Oregon Coast Regional Housing Summit happening virtually. I think we may hear from our city manager and some others. They state they're engaging experts from outside the area to learn, organize, and move housing forward on the South Coast.
8 a.m., right?
8 a.m. to 11 a.m., live on Zoom, and the registration's online. Yeah.
Thanks. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, Rob?
I just wanted to give you guys an update on the library, the proposed library. The request for qualifications for the conceptual design and siting of the proposed Coos Bay Library at Tops Park has been open for a little while now, and it closes this Thursday, October 21st, and then the recommendation committee will then meet October 28th to score the applications and develop a short list for interviews. Interviews will be November 10th, and the goal is to have a recommendation to the council at the November 23rd work session. And the only other thing I had was I wanted to thank Senior Officer Looney and K-9 Katie for their service to this community.
So how's it going with the roof on the library?
Currently, they're bringing supplies in. No work, I don't believe, has been done yet. I think they're still waiting for some additional materials.
Okay. That's it, Rob?
Yep.
Thank you. Lucinda?
I just wanted to again thank Chief Chapinar, forgive me, Captain,
Schaefer.
was there another Captain?
Schaefer.
Schaefer, Chief Chapinar, Captain Schaefer, and Roger for all of their work in assisting North Bend. You guys make it look so easy, and you make our job really easy, and so I'm just grateful to you for all of the work behind the scenes to make that such a seamless transition. So kudos to all of you. I also wanted to thank a number of businesses. This community had the great pleasure of hosting the Oregon Coast Visitors Association People's Coast Summit last week, and so many businesses were showcased. Front Street Provisioners, there was actually a session here at the city, Josie's Art Lab, the Coos History Museum, Seven Devils Waterfront, Ale House, the Mill, I know I'm forgetting, the Egyptian Theater. So all of those businesses were showcased, and I heard such wonderful things about the conference. I got to have my city councilor hat on and my Oregon Tourism Commissioner hat on, and it was really exciting just to hear people talk about what a wonderful community this is, and specifically talk about all the work that we're doing on Front Street. They were so impressed and couldn't wait to come back to see how it's how it will continue to be developed. So I just wanted to again thank the council and thank the staff for all of your work on those. And I forgot the VCB, forgive me, and the Visitor and Conventions Bureau, who was really instrumental in bringing this convention here. That's all I have.
Thanks, Lucinda. Carmen?
Well, I'll piggyback on those comments. I wanted to give some credit to a developer who was recognized in our state for the Oregon Main Street Excellence on Main Award winner, Heidi Sauce, for her work on the 999 North Front Street building. She was awarded the Best Adaptive Reuse Award, which if you have a chance to go by Front Street and see what's going on at that building, it's amazing. And this is her, in addition to her amazing work at the Front Street Provisioners building. So I want to congratulate Heidi and her family for taking on such amazing projects and really sprucing things up on Front Street. She's really a leader in that zone down there and in the community in general. So I just want to say thank you. I also want to say how happy I am that we adopted the proclamation for the Native American Heritage Month here as a city, and I just wanted to reiterate one more time that I'd love to see us as a council meet with the tribal council at some point, just have a meeting if it's I don't know about the frequency or even what we would discuss, but I think we should gather more than we do right now. And I'd also like to extend that to the city of North Bend. I feel like we should all be working together as much as possible. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks, Carmen.
Carmen, you've said that a number of times. Can we just do it, Roger?
Yes, if that's the desire of the council, we can make that request.
I mean, maybe the conversation is what projects can we work together on, and maybe that's the impetus for future meetings.
So one at a time, right?
Probably. I mean,
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah,
think
one at a time.
Would be better.
I'd like to see it happen. Just I think we should all be working together, and I think during a Native American Heritage Month, it would be a good place to maybe reach out and see what we can work on together.
Good suggestion. Thanks, Carmen. Drew?
Well, I like to say I don't think North Bend could be in better hands right now, so that's great. Also, I just wanted to quickly touch on one of the comments we got about the marijuana facilities. One of them referenced a presentation on the negative impacts of having a marijuana retail store within 2 miles of a school. And I'm not good at, I don't do a lot of tourism or marketing, but I do know research. And social services is one of the fields where you try and work yourself out of a job. So I looked that up a little bit, and in the future, if folks send something like this, if they can attach the the research or a link to what they're talking about, it's beneficial. Because all I can find is where the conference took place and that the presenter has no publications or current projects on the marijuana topic. So I'm a little lost, and if that can be included by folks that send in comments in the future, that would be helpful.
Supporting documents.
Thanks, Drew. I also am pleased that we passed the proclamation of the Native American, proclamation for the Native Americans, and I think it's a good suggestion from Carmen. I'm also happy to see that Marshfield High School has taken the opportunity to still continue on with the dance. It makes me happy that they are doing this. It's a good thing that they do, and we need to be supportive of it, as Lucinda mentioned. Also, Heidi Sa's getting the award. I want to congratulate her. Had an opportunity to meet with her and visit with her, and she has got a lot of energy. And I hope she keeps moving forward. I suggested a few of the buildings, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? But anyway, the ACFA conference that we had here, Summit Conference, was a huge success. I was able to participate in it. As Lucinda mentioned, Janice, kudos to her and her staff for pulling this off. And she also sits on the ACFA board. But I had the opportunity to intermingle and talk with many visitors, Todd Davidson being one of them, who's the CEO of Travel Oregon, and that's the board that Lucinda sits on. He hasn't been here for a while, and he drove back into town, and he was shocked at what he told me, the improvements and changes he's seen. So it's great that people recognize it, and then the other locals up and down the coast coming in and recognizing what we've done and being, making the compliments. So it's nice to get those things back, know that we've done something that's noticed by many. And so anyway, Chief Chaffin, I want to thank you and Captain Schaefer, and I know Roger's been instrumental in doing this. You stepped up, you helped with the situation that was necessary, and it's really not forgotten and well seen. And I know North Bend City Council, the mayor has explained to me that she's very pleased with it, city manager. So, it's nice that we step up and help our neighbors. And so I'm very proud of us as a city and of our employees. So thank you so much. Anyway, that's the end of my comments, and no urban renewal, Stephanie, so I guess I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.